welcome to another week of Bonsai. I'm Scott Martin from Bonsai Matsu, and this is the Bonsai Stuff Podcast. I love it that you're listening in. Thank you very much. So I want to talk in this episode of the podcast about what's happening around the yard at the moment, because there's a bit going on. This late autumn period, we've entered the last phase of autumn, becomes very busy and a little bit tricky. So I thought I'd just give you a bit of a heads up as to what I'm doing around the yard and what's happening and what I think you need to focus on, or what would help around your place with your trees at this time of the year. We've had some unseasonably warm weather, as I get reminded that there have been warm autumn days late previously. That's true. But the last couple of years I can remember, it's definitely been a lot colder around this Anzac Day period, where we don't generally get, especially in Melbourne, we definitely don't get sort of mid-20 days. But hey, I'm definitely not complaining. But it can lead to a few traps, especially when it comes to watering your trees. So I want to have a bit of a yak about that, and also the other section of the podcast, I want to talk about when something goes wrong with one of your trees. You see some issues, changes. Just a quite simple approach that I use to try and diagnose where things are at, what I should be doing, what I should be focusing on. I want to open that up and just sort of broaden things, and that maybe it's not always best to jump to a worst case scenario with your trees. And often I find that sort of thing, when something does go wrong, and they tend to pop up all the time, but now you see a few around the yard, definitely, because of issues like overwatering or underwatering. You know, it's hard to get that delicate balance right, but they do tend to pop up around about now. So I find the really simple approach that I've got when you're looking at your trees thinking something's not right, don't hit the panic button. Let's just go back a step and see what we can do to analyse what the issue is and how we can go forward from there. So let's get into it. Autumn is a spectacular time of the year if you're lucky enough to get some of those cooler nights, cooler days, just as things start to taper off down the southern part of Australia. When autumn starts to kick in, it's a really magnificent time, and it's really important to appreciate and understand where your bonsai are at this time of the year as they head towards that short dormancy period that they get, that rest, that recovery time, that time to just put their feet up, lay back in an armchair and go, it's okay, I can just have a bit of a rest for a while. So as that happens, everything starts to slow down. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, gradual thing. Daylight hours get shorter and shorter, and the trees tend to let you know when they're starting to head towards dormancy. Growth rates stop. The leaves, if it's deciduous, leaves start to change colour. Australian natives still continue to grow, of course, because that's their nature, is to grow 24/7, 365 days a year, pretty much. But the rest of the trees, the exotics especially, you can get a real feel for when they start to slow down. And when we talk about natives, of course, there's different varieties, and they're all different times. So you've got to analyse the tree individually. That's what I suppose I'm getting towards, is that we need to make sure that when you're making decisions for your bonsai, it's not all of your bonsai, it's individually for your bonsai. For each tree. Each tree you've got in a little container or a grow pod or wherever it is in the yard. It's okay, what's best for that tree right now? And this is where these automated watering systems that I've really got a love for, and I think that every serious person that has bonsai needs them. Otherwise, you are dedicating your life to watering your trees and nothing else. That's it. So having a great watering system is it's essential as far as I'm concerned. But at this time of the year, they've got to almost be turned off to a degree, if you can. Like for instance, if you're travelling, you're away, and you say, the tree's going to need a water, by all means, use the system. But if you're around and you've got the time, I would really encourage you strongly to get to know the trees and get up close to them and have a look and say, well, do you need water today or not? Because, I've got, I'm going through doing lots of work on different types of trees, and at the moment, some of them I look at and go, wow, geez, you've dropped your leaves really early. Whereas another one, it's like, you're still in full leaf and you're plump green and you're looking great. Like there's no hint of any change of season for you. So those two trees, I've got one that's, almost, very, very close, within a couple of % of being ready for dormancy. And I've got another one which is looking like, hey, I'm still photosynthesizing. I'm still doing what I have to do. I've still got this foliage. And I know it's going to drop soon, but I'm still using it. So those two trees, the water uptake is very different. And it's that water uptake that is the key driver for watering at the moment. And I know I've been talking about water. I talk about watering a lot because it is so, as I rub my forehead, it's very difficult to get it right. And it's so easy to have the little needle on the gauge go, whoops, you've gone to overwatering. Oh no, hang on a minute, you're underwatering, buddy. You need to step up your game. And those two, that fluctuation between the two is very hard to get right. But that's where I encourage you, if you are in close contact with your trees and you do see them and you get to know them and you get to analyze what they're doing at this point in time, then you can make real life instantaneous decisions when you're walking around with your watering wand and you go, actually, you don't need it today. I'm going to let you go because you're looking actually really wet and there's not much foliage on the tree, so the uptake's changing and this water uptake with unseasonally, or with the, let's take a word unseasonally out of it, with the warmer weather we've been having lately, it's very easy to slip back to thinking, hey, this is spring. And in springtime, I was watering at least once a day and sometimes twice a day, especially if there was a dry, warm northerly wind where I am. It's sort of, off the mainland of Australia coming towards you, whatever that is, whether it's an easterly or westerly, southerly, whatever it is, whenever you get those from the central part of Australia, that wind blowing towards you, it's generally a hell of a lot warmer. So if you're feeling at the moment, hey, this is real spring weather, and you start watering like it's spring, then I can guarantee you that bonsai in your collection will be flicking across to saying, hey, this is a bit much. I'm being watered more than what I need. You're overwatering me now. I can't use this water. Like it's just sitting around my root system, and it's starting to get a bit too wet and a bit too soggy for me. So if that's the case, like daylight hours, if your focus goes from the external temperature and focuses on the number of hours of daylight that we've got per day, and to see the graduation that is getting less and less and less, then that's the real catalyst for you to say, well, okay, if that's happening, then my watering needs to be less as well. And even though it is warm and it is dry and there is that warm inland breeze or wind coming towards you and it is drying out the pots a little bit, just have a look at the trees and say, are they taking up the moisture? What is the pot? Is the soil still maintaining moisture in there? Or is it drying out too fast? Is the tree, yes, the tree is taking it up. I walk around my yard and I think, okay, I've got to water my natives. I have to. Like they're soaking it up. They're loving it. Whereas when I walk through the deciduous, like I said, some that have gone towards that dormancy period, it's like, well, actually, you don't need it. You probably get watered once every 2-3 days once you've dropped your leaves, whereas the one beside it that's still holding its leaves, all right, well, you're still on maybe a 1 to 1.5 day cycle. I look at my pines and think, yeah, you're getting closer towards that period where you're going to stop using water up. So you're probably still in the 1 day mark, and it's difficult. And your junipers, if you've got junipers in your collection, well, yeah, sure, they're going to be looking to be needing watering probably every day at the moment. Now, they still continue to push growth. The growth definitely slows down, but it's still there. My olives around the yard, they're still pushing new growth. So, your evergreens are still continuing to photosynthesize. They're still continuing to use up the water, the moisture in the container. So it's very hard to have one size fits all. So, and this is where the use of the moisture meter, well, it's not an exact measure. It's not definitely going to tell you exactly what the moisture content of the soil is. It gives you a heads up to say, hey, this tree isn't using it, so slow down the watering. Or no, this tree's cooked. Like you've not given it enough water. You need to really keep an eye on it. So it's almost like you need some kind of a flagging system. For me, it's just because I spend so much time with the trees, I can walk around and go, yep, okay, that's still needing water. No, that one's fine. There's moss starting to grow on the top of the pot. Look out for that sludgy rubbish on top. But if things are happening like that, and you can get a feel for it to know when you should be watering and when you shouldn't. So I'd be very careful falling into the trap that because we've got warm weather, that your trees are in a spring period, because that's just not the case. They're definitely heading back towards that dormancy period. At this time of the year, if it is happening, you've got to be very careful, because overwatering can be disastrous over a long period for your tree's root system, and it can set the tree back without you actively knowing what is happening. And any tools that you can use, the old dry chopstick into the soil, leave it, come back a couple of minutes later, is it soaking wet or is it still bone dry? Okay, well, that means the root system's either holding a lot of moisture or it's drying out quite nicely. So it's not really a problem. But it's just that thought process that we go through. I'm still wearing shorts around the yard, which fantastic. That's awesome. I love it. But my trees aren't in spring mode. I might be, but my trees definitely aren't. So I've got to be very careful about what I'm doing. Another thing I'm doing at the moment is I've got this enormous pin oak in the backyard, and it's a lovely tree. But my God, at this time of the year, it drops so many leaves. So every day I'm plucking leaves off the trees. I'm removing leaves from the benches. It seems hard to keep up with, and it's painful. It's honest to God, it's painful. But using a blower, using any techniques, it's just something that has to be done. And I encourage you strongly that if you've got any debris falling around your benches, try and get rid of it as quickly as you can. Don't wait until winter. Don't wait until it's gone all sludgy and it's wet and there's, pests and bugs all living in amongst that debris. Try and get rid of it as quickly as you can. It's, depending on what trees are dropping the leaves. I mean, are they bringing fungal issues into your yard by leaving them there for a longer period of time? Are you encouraging issues in your trees? And I just think that housekeeping side of things is something that you've got to stay on top of. And that said, weeds at the moment, they're loving this warm weather. They're taking off. They're not a tree, so they grow very differently. And I am constantly chasing my tail to the point that I'm sort of, belt my head against a brick wall because there's just weeds everywhere. But it's one of those things. The best time to remove a weed is when it's about 3 millimeters tall. It comes out really easily. If you leave it there and give it a week to take hold before you actually do something, that's another issue. And it's just so time consuming and so painful that if you just stay on top of these little things, then it's going to make it much easier for you. Another thing that's happening at the moment, as we've turned the corner into the last calendar month of the autumn period, is fertilising. And you need to make sure that you're mindful of, if you're looking at the water uptake for your bonsai, we'll use that also as a bit of a prompt to say, should I fertilise this tree now or should I hold back? Like, it's really easy to say, yeah, fertilise once a month, every month of autumn. Cool, that's 3 times. Autumn goes for 3 months on the calendar. So just fertilise. It's another month has ticked over. I'm going to put fertiliser bags on there. But if the tree's not using it, if the tree's gone to dormancy, you're really wasting your effort. It's just going to flush through the tree's root system and it becomes a fruitless exercise. there is a reason to do fertilising nice and early, because you might get 2 weeks more use out of the fertiliser. So putting it on there is definitely worth it. You might only get a week. You might get nothing. So then if it's nothing, don't do it. You might get a full month. You might find that you're actually doing really well, building the strength of the trees right up to the very last point where they do go into dormancy. So it's worth doing it, but just make sure it is worth the effort that you're putting into it. So if they're dormant, if your deciduous have dropped their leaves, if they've gone to sleep and said, no, that's it, I'm done, I'm on holidays, I'm taking off, well then don't waste your time fertilising. But if there's still a chance, then I would strongly encourage you, with using the organic fertilisers, would encourage you to stay on and make sure that that's part of the ritual that you're performing right now. And hopefully, as you're listening to this podcast, you've already done it, because this is coming out early in May, and hopefully at the start of May you went, yep, okay, it's time to do some fertilising and got straight onto it. The work on the trees around the yard at the moment is getting really busy. It's the start of the prime time for me when it comes to working on my pines. And there's lots of work in there, and that'll be a future episode of the podcast. But there's lots of needle plucking, bud selection, wiring, shaping, styling, all that. For me, it's the best time of the year for your pines. Like, hands down, your pine will not look better than what it will after the work you've done at this period of time. Of course, it'll get better in years to come. That's development. But as far as it goes, looking right now, now's the chance we get in there to do some serious work on these trees and really make them stand out and really take those massive steps forward that make them the beautiful butterflies that they're going to be. So another thing I'm working on at the moment is a lot of cedars. A lot of cedar work, trying to get that wrapped up. Normally I try and get the cedars close to done around the start of this last sort of period for the autumn period. I like to have them definitely done before winter gets here. Just a routine that I've got. You can do them at different times, but for me, I like to have them done before then, because that late autumn, early winter period is when pine season kicks in. And anyone that knows me knows that I've got maybe just a couple of pines that I have to try and get through in my own yard, plus a lot of other work for people as well. So it just becomes really busy, and I take back the word never. I try to never, sounds much better. I try to never miss doing work on the trees because I've been pushed one way or the other with work of any kind. So I keep it on the calendar saying, hey, listen, we're getting close to the end of autumn. You've got to have your cedars done. Perfect. Great. I'll stay on top of it and I'll make sure they get done. Then I can go back on the bench and do what they're going to do. So the other thing that I'm doing at the moment, as I get into this last period, is my final deciduous prune. Make sure you're getting that prune done before they get to dormancy. It's too late. Once they've dropped their leaves and they've gone bye-byes for the winter period, you've missed the boat, and I would suggest waiting till early spring to do the work if you can. If you're absolutely positive that you want to do it, just maybe avoid removing major branches, light little prunes here and there. You might find at this time they're still okay. Like, I'm still doing it around the yard, going through the deciduous that I need to and giving them a bit of a cutback. On one the other day, I gave it some serious temporary sacrifice branch removal that had grown all over the tree to push it back, make it look nice, and then let it have its sleep in a few weeks, and spring comes around and I may do the same thing over again. But it's time for me to let those wounds heal before the dormancy period kicks in. And I like to take photos of the trees at this time of the year as you're doing all this sort of serious work on them. It's nice to get that record updated and just create a memory of especially for your pines and cedars, stuff that you can really make look fantastic at this time of the year. It's nice to be on top of the photos so you can look back at them. I take it before and after, just so you can see the difference, not only for the tree but also to see your skill, how it's changed, and how you've developed in any way, any increments that you've taken forward, what you can do for that. I think it's positive in a lot of ways to to pat yourself on the back, and also to reward yourself in coming times when the trees maybe get left alone for a while. They look a little bit scrappy. It's nice to look back on these photos and go, geez, that looked nice when I worked on it, and hold the faith that, you know, by not overworking your trees and pushing them to the point where you're going to kill them, you know, holding the faith that when you do get to the right time of the year and you do get to work on them, that, you know, they are going to look brilliant. And for me, that's why I love working on my pines at this time of the year. You know, I've looked at them on the bench since decandling and gone, oh my goodness, you're looking so scrappy. I'd love to get in there and sort those buds out. I'd love to get rid of the old needles and the long ones that have now been replaced by these beautiful short ones post decandling. I'd love to wire and style you, but it's like, no, it's the wrong time. The right time is coming up, and when it gets here, then you do the work. You do the work thoroughly, and you make sure that they look brilliant, and that's what I'm looking forward to. So the other thing that I'm working on at the moment too is preparation for repotting. It's time to get serious. It's time to stop talking about it. It's time to start taking action, making sure you've got everything that you need for that time of the year, and to have identified what trees you're going to be working on during that time. You know, allocate some time in your calendar to say, okay, this weekend, you know, or this day, this night, this morning, that's when I'm going to do my repotting. And I find that by putting it into my calendar, like physically putting it in there going, no, that's it. Whenever I get a tap on the shoulder, say, hey, I'd like to do this, or can we do that, or, you know, this other events come up. No, it just has to wait, because it's important to make sure that your trees are going to get what they need when they need it. That whole missing repotting for 12 months or doing it at the wrong time of the year can really be quite stressful and very hard on the tree. And like I said, it might not be something that you see immediately, but it definitely will be something that you'll see over time. So I'd strongly suggest that by being prepared now for what's coming, and having the supplies, the wire, the mesh, soil, pots, you know, allocated some time in the calendar for it, when it does get there, you'll be ready to go. And while you're adding supplies in there, make sure you get some decent gloves to wear while you're working on it, and some eye protection as well, because you can find that there can be some quite nasty bugs in the soil. In fact, you know, an avid listener, Luke, had a shocking story about a fungal issue into his lungs. So there's also that thought that, you know, wearing face masks might not be such a bad idea. So do your own research. But I encourage you now, make sure that you've got everything ready to go. You know, I love being prepared. You know, I love planning for things and having stuff fully lined up, ready to go. So when it does happen, you can just get in there and knock it out. Nothing worse than saying, okay, I'm going to do it. All right, now I need this, and then you've got to go and source it. So just be prepared. But that's sort of how I'm wrapping up this last little period of autumn in my yard. Okay, so when something goes wrong with your trees, it's a tough time, and I've talked about it before over the last 8 seasons. Of course I have. But it's probably something to flash back on and just have a chat about, because it is now is an active time around the yard. You are going to be spending time with your trees in one shape or another, and you're going to be working on them. You're going to be getting ready for the repotting period. You're going to be, when you're repotting, you're up close and personal, and you may see that things have gone wrong around the place. It might be that you know, you've got dieback on branches. You might have some needles that have started to change colour. You know, browning on the tips or something. It's really important, and the best advice that I can give you is don't jump to a worst case scenario. Don't think the worst. And this is where I do love the internet, where it's part of our daily life. It's fantastic. I do love communicating with people and seeing how there's that interaction that we can have with each other on so many different platforms, so many different social media places, and we can upload photos, we can ask for advice, we can seek help, and it's fantastic. But a lot of time I see that when something gets posted and I look at it and think, oh, that's quite a simple solution. Like that would be this. Or that, if it was my tree, I would do this with it. I would do something like whatever. Well, then I see a response from it, and it's generally a worst case scenario. You've got a fungal issue that's going to terminate your tree. You've got to get out the chainsaw, lop it off here, get the blowtorch out, and it's just, I'm being over dramatic, but there's often in trying to help or in seeing what can be done. Often the database that you're using in your head to go through things, it's straight away to the worst case scenario. I'll talk one example I've got is needle cast on pines, which I'm certain that there's parts around the world where it's common, and I can see it on some big trees that are around different gardens at different times. Not bonsai necessarily, but park trees, stuff like that. You see and go, okay, yeah, that typically that would be that sort of an issue. But I've never come across it on a bonsai in my collection, and I've rarely, I say rarely, but I actually can't think of any scenario where I've had it presented to me and definitively proven that it was needle cast. And in fact, one scenario I had where I got a message, and this email was a panic email about, oh, my tree, it's dying. It's got needle cast. What do I do to treat needle cast? And I said, oh, can you send me some photos? Like, let's have a look at it. No. What fungal tray should I use? Should I cut these off? Should I remove this? Should I get rid of this? Do this, do that? It's like, hang on, well, let's just slow it down a little bit. And can you show me exactly what it is that you're looking at? Let's get on the same page and have a look at it. So a photo comes through, and there was lots of brown tips all around the tree. And from a distance, I would look at it and go, yep, yeah, I can see what's happened. It doesn't look good. Like, that's not great. So give me some closer photos. Let's have a zoom in and have a look. And when the photos came in close, you could actually see that the needles were broken. So when the tree had been styled, the application of wire through the tree had caused, through maybe a bit of rough work for the hands to go in there and to break the needles. So from a distance, yeah, sure, it looked like there was lots of brown needles all over the tree, but it worked out being that it was just rough handling and being a bit clumsy with application of wire that had broken the needles, and the needles, once they break, the tips go brown, no problem. So there's nothing to do. There's literally, you can go in there with a pair of tweezers and pluck off the brown tips, so it goes back to looking nice. But as far as that knee-jerk reaction, how do I save my tree? It's about to die. That's non-existent in that scenario. And it's just one example where I'd like to just give you a bit of framework to say, don't always jump to the worst case scenario, because the worst case scenario can be pretty terrifying. Where you're isolating the tree, or even dumping the tree, going, oh no, I've bought XYZ into my yard, and now it's going to affect all my other trees. I've got to get rid of it. It's got to go. It's like, well, no, you don't jump at it. Just sit back, relax, have a look. Is it something simple? Like, often for me, the most common cause of an issue that I see, that I come across, almost always, when you start tracing the trail all the way back, you go from, I've got an underwatering issue. All right, okay, so that's causing, I've got leaf drop, leaf curl. Right, so go back. It's underwatering. Okay, why is underwatering happening? Okay, so you are watering at the appropriate times, but the water's not getting into the mix. All right, so why is the water not getting into the mix? Because the tree wasn't repotted when it should have been. Okay. Almost almost always when you do that paper trail back to see why an issue has occurred, it's not just what's happening right then and there with the tree. It's like, okay, you've got to treat that. I agree, definitely. So if you're underwatering, you've got to get water into the tree. Done. Okay, so you do dunks with the tree. Maybe you've got to do it, every couple of days. You might do that soji where you're removing the top layer of the soil, you're aerating, replacing new soil, putting some sphagnum moss on top, allowing the water to get in there and have some new room for new roots to grow. Done. You've temporarily fixed the problem. But what's the ultimate root cause of the issue? Tree wasn't repotted when it should have been. So it's a simple solution. There's processes to go through. You've got browning tips on your pine and they're not broken. You're looking at it and going, is that fungal? Is it something? Am I getting needle cast? Is there some kind of other issue coming into my tree that I need to be aware of? All right, so browning of the needles on the tip. What's that caused by? What can it be caused by? What's the most simple logical reason why the tips on your needles would go brown? All right, when you don't get enough water, when your tree can't suck up the water, can't transpire, can't push it out, it's through its branches to its foliage to go through the process of transpiration. When there's failure with that because the water can't get into the tree or there's not enough water, maybe you've missed watering, whatever it is, what's the first thing that gets damaged? The furthest point from the root system is your foliage, and the tip of the foliage, whether it's a leaf or a needle, they're the ones. That's what gets damaged first. How's it show the damage? It dries out. What happens when a needle dries out? It starts to go brown. Okay, so rather than jumping to one extreme saying, okay, it's needle cast, okay, let's just go back to the simple thing. It's underwatering. But I'm watering the tree 15 times a day. Yeah, okay, so the water's not getting into the tree. That's the simple fact. It's not that you're not doing your job. It's that the tree can't take up the water. Why can't the tree take up the water? Because it wasn't repotted, because the soil's like a piece of cement in the backyard that you're throwing water on. It's just running straight off the edge of it. Maybe the tree's been repotted into a mound, so the water hits the mound and simply runs off the edge of the pot without actually permeating and getting into the soil mix that you've got. So it could be a technical thing. It's vast majority of the time. And I'm not downplaying serious issues. I'm not trying to steer you away from that. But I would always start when you're looking at any kind of issue with your tree, go back to what is the most basic, uncomplicated thing it could be. Work up from there. Tick that box. Could it be underwatering? Could it be overwatering? Yes or no? All right. Well, you've moved on from that. All right. So could it be positioning? Could it be something where it's had physical damage to the tree? There's another one where another tree was, the bottom branch on a cascading tree had died, and it was like, get the message. I think something's gone wrong with the watering over summer. It's caused this issue. There's top of the tree looks great, but the lower branch, I've lost it. Okay, yeah. Look, it could be that you've got a fungal issue getting into the tree. Definitely, it could be a watering issue. Definitely could be. But let's can you send me a video or show me that lower branch right the way along? Have a look at it. Yep. Okay, there's a break there. That break hasn't been treated. It's dried out, so that's what's caused the branch to die. Then you can see that you can pinpoint it because there's live foliage before the break and it's dead foliage after the break. It generally comes down to it's not a disastrous moment. It's just the simplest thing possible. You have to be able to get past these things. Of course, that's a whole. I've talked about that before, overcoming adversity and disaster with your trees. But as far as managing or coming back to treating what the problem is, more often than not, I find it's the simplest solution. It's the most easy of explanation. Come back. Did you miss watering the trees? And honesty, it comes into it. Has your feeding regime been good with the tree? Has all the stuff? Is it getting enough sunlight? Oh, my needles are all twisted. I think I've got spider mites, or I've got whatever. I've got some kind of fungal issue. All right. So how much sunlight does your tree get a day? It sits on a balcony facing south and gets no sun all day. Well, okay, well your tree's getting weaker as a result of that. It's not getting enough sun. The problem is that the problem is not enough sun, but what you're looking at, you might have a pest invasion. I've got so many pests coming into my tree, can't maintain it, can't manage it. There's just something's wrong with the tree. Of course it is. Why is the tree weaker? The tree's weaker because of whatever it is. It'll be the simplest thing. It's weaker because it can't get the water in because it wasn't repotted. It's weaker because it's not getting enough sun. It's in the wrong spot. Don't always hit the panic button. Build up to it. Go through the most logical solution first. Look at the simplest things, and then build up from there and go, okay, all right, I've been through all that stuff. It's starting to look like it is something more serious. So then you start stepping up your game a little bit and start looking and digging further and going, okay, well, maybe it is needle cast. Maybe it is a fungal issue. Maybe it is whatever. But make sure that you've ruled out those earlier issues, the simplest stuff first, because it'll save a lot of time. And as I said, in my experience, most common for me is the easiest solution is easiest root cause of the problem is the most common thing that I come across. Okay, tree lovers. Well, hopefully that podcast has given you a bit of help as to what to do around the yard, and the last part hopefully can ease your mind a little bit as well when something does go wrong, or it looks like something's gone wrong. That it's not the end of the world. It's often fixed quite easily as long as you catch it early enough, and that's, I suppose, what we need to be reminded of all the time is that just got to spend time with your trees. Being away from them for any length of time, even if it's during a week, I find my own experience when I travel and I'm away, I sort of miss them. I miss them a hell of a lot, but it's also the fact that I can't be there to see if something's happened, because that daily, half daily, hourly review of the trees, having a quick look at them, you can see when things start to go wrong, and you can grab it early enough and go, well, I am overwatering that tree, and you can stop it. You can fix the problem and go, done. No, it's not going to cause an issue for you. Or, hey, that one's drying out quite a lot. I'm thinking I can change my watering habits, but that tree there still needs it, so I've got to stay on guard with it. Anyway, it is nice to be around the trees at this time of the year. They change a lot, and I think a few of mine, I know, definitely are looking forward to a bit of a rest. And as I said earlier in the podcast, I'm excited about pine time because it's a fantastic time to really get my teeth into the trees and make them look beautiful. I'm actually really, really excited about getting into it. But then about halfway through, I'll be going, when is this finishing? I want this to be done. And then once it's done, as I start to shake quivering in my seat while I'm recording this, it's repotting time, and it's a busy time. So be prepared, like the Boy Scouts or other Girl Guides. Make sure that you are ready to go for all that's in front of us with our bonsai. Thanks for listening in. Thank you to the subscribers. You mean the world, and this would not be possible without you. So thank you very much. Enjoy the week in bonsai. I'll be back again, and until then, as always, happy bonsai.